You're listening to the Geek Gods Podcast.
Welcome to the Geek Gods Podcast, Episode 3, the Geek Gods Spooktacular. I'm your host with the most, Ashish, enter creepy name here, Thomas. With me is...
Sheila, enter spooky name here, O'Neill.
Richard Lynch.
Ooh.
As always, check out Sheila's website, SheilaO'Neill.com. Check out Richard on Facebook and Twitter. And as always, check out the Geek Gods Podcast for thegeekgods.com for this podcast and other geeky-related items. Product placement, y'all. Product placement. Anyhow, let's get started with the show. So, our first topic on this episode is Geeky Confessions. We all have this idea of what a geek should be, yet not all geeks have the same kind of knowledge or things that make them geeky. So here are some confessions that might surprise you, though we're lacking in our geek knowledge, so to speak. So I guess I'll go first. For me, I'm not a D&D fan. I've never played D&D. It's not been something that has crossed my path or I've ever done. It's never something that I've been like, oh, let's play D&D. It's great. I have so many friends who play it. And it just never got into my social structure. And then later on, Magic skipped me by. I never played Magic. I never was one of those kids who even understood the game or played the game. My friends are shocked by that. Like, we thought you'd be D&D and Magic. I'm like, I want to be like, that's racist or the equivalent of it for geek people. That's just being, discriminatory. So it's just funny. It's just like, come on. You don't all have to like D&D and play Magic. That's a stereotype, and we don't have to do that anymore.
Don't have to. That doesn't mean it's not fun. I think my biggest geek thing that passed me by is kind of the whole Japanese culture thing that so many nerds seem to be into. Like, I've never really been into anime or manga. I never watched Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball Z.
You don't want to catch them all?
Not really, no. I don't know. I like Miyazaki, and that's sort of as far as I go into the weird and wonderful world of Japanese cartoons.
That's kind of surprising because I would think I'm not an anime person either. Mm-hmm. Like, I just started watching Attack on the Titan, and it confused the hell out of me. I was looking at going, my friend's so into it, and I felt so bad when he was showing me. I'm like, this is great. I was like, this is great, but it's not really my cup of tea. Why are these things eating people?
I heard someone at a Comic-Con panel talking about Tokyo Ghoul, and that sounds kind of cool, and I want to look into that, but I haven't yet. I don't know. It's not that I ever particularly disliked anything, except Pokemon, which so many people at like my elementary school liked when I was a kid, that I just sort of disliked it because it seemed popular almost.
I can get that because
that's how I was when I was little.
Pokemon to me doesn't make sense. It's just like, okay, you got to catch them all. What do you get for catching them all?
Them all?
Yeah. It's like, okay, you got Pikachu who's cute, but I never watched, like, I think the cartoon passed me by when I was...
Rich, this is one of yours too, right?
I was also going to say Pokemon. I've never really understood it, and so many of my friends will just put so much time into every game, and I've tried the games, I've watched the show a little bit. I never really figured out how to get into it, and I always felt like I should.
Yeah, it's one of those things that could slip you by. Like for me, I recently had to do an interview for Image Comics on Wayward, which is a series that takes Japanese mythology and puts it into comic form. I really liked that series after reading it for the interview, and I actually became a fan of his way of doing Japanese mythology because it seems more authentic. It seems more like it's tied into real Japanese culture, where some of these anime and mangas, I think, make shit up as they go.
Yeah.
It's not really like tied into anything or tied to anything real, so to speak. So for me, that always... But it seems like that's one thing that people think you have to be a geek to like anime or manga, and I don't think you do. Something else? Is there anything else that you have?
I was just going to say that I think that anime does have its merits and stuff. It's confusing, though, for a lot of like us to deal with it through translation.
Because it goes
and
from
stuff.
right to left.
Yeah, it goes from right to left. All the dialogue comes out backwards, but I think a lot of it we lose in the translation stuff, and so we don't really necessarily get some of the like more nuanced cultural things.
So you're saying we should all learn Japanese?
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that, you know. It would make things a lot more interesting because I think, and we were talking, my friend and I were talking about how different like categories of anime too. It's like you have anime, then you have hentai, which is more adult oriented. And I'm like, I don't even want to go there because I don't even want to imagine what's in hentai. It's just something that I'm like, whoever likes it, congratulations for liking it, but you scared the crap out of me. Because I can just imagine what, and I would probably tell me some stuff, and I'm like, dude, you know, good for you. You scared me. I'm never going to think of you the same way ever again. I'm not judging you, but that's scary.
I think another one of my confessions is that I'm not that big into video games. I know, right? I mean, okay, look, it's not that I don't like video games, and I've gotten obsessed with some. Super Mario Galaxy, I was really, really into for a while. I think it's just because it takes up so much time, and buying the new gaming consoles and stuff can be expensive and things, and it just, I don't know. I was too busy watching television.
Expensive is an understatement, by the way.
Yeah.
I was too busy watching television to play too many
everything
video
else that they
games.
have nowadays. But, you know, for me,
I finally played Portal. I did it. It was great.
You liked it?
I loved it.
All right. So I think that's a game that, you know, if you don't like Portal, we'd have to kick you off the podcast. I think
That would be a little bit too much of a confession.
Yeah. No, but the thing about video games, I see what you're saying too. Like, I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer, even though I have the PS4 and Xbox One. I find the time to play games is what prevents me from buying more games, because to play a game, to keep it through, it's just hard these days. I understand what you're saying. Like, the last game I bought that I thoroughly was ramping through was the Batman game, which was a kick-ass game. But to do everything, I got up to a certain point where it's got so difficult that I just was like, I'll finish this some other time.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there were a couple more games like Flower that are so, like, a little shorter and just really pleasant.
It's tricky now because everyone wants to make their games so big and so full of content. And
what's that new game that has, like, a ridiculous number of computer animated planets?
Oh, No Man's Sky. That game that never, ever, ever ends.
Yeah.
Really?
Or starts.
Yeah, that guy was on
Starts.
that guy was on Colbert not that long ago.
Yeah, those guys seem cool. They've been through a lot of hard times, but their game is just so crazy ambitious, and I don't even understand it. I don't want to spend the rest of my life exploring every single planet in the galaxy. But it would be cool to visit.
Well, then they're not letting you on the Enterprise.
Yeah. Well, there's that. Remember, it's only supposed to be a 5-year mission, though, so
That's true.
it's not supposed to go on for all
a
eternity.
billion spin-offs. But that's why they went to different ships, right?
Yeah, and then rebooted the whole thing and have the new universe where anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yay, Star Trek. But, you know, it's funny in how video games itself has become a chore, too. You know, there's some people are like, you're not playing the next Call of Duty. I'm like, and I love Call of Duty. For people who love Call of Duty, that's their jam. Good for you. For me, I find first-person shooters are boring, and I don't like playing them. That said, we know even gaming innovation, I think part of the reason why some people stop playing is because games haven't evolved to the point where it's like, you know, the certain games are going to come out that are good safe. No one's really taking chances, so they're always going to come out with Call of Duty every year. You're going to have your sports games every year. You're going to have some aspect of Uncharted, Assassin's Creed, you know, Call of Duty. It's very hard to get new IPs going because it's a lot of risk involved.
It's pretty much impossible. And now even a lot of the new stuff, every indie game seems to kind of be the same thing with like all those weird Nuclear Throne type knockoff things and the roguelikes. Even like franchises that started out new, like all the different Telltale games have just sort of started to roll into each other.
I love Telltale. I feel you can take one of those games and you know how to play all of them.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be that much of a difference between The Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead, you know?
See, now here I've gone and launched this conversation that I have nothing to contribute to. This is all my fault.
This is your fault. I'm looking at you. But
I can talk about the Stanley Parable, the closet ending, am I right? That one was great.
Love the Stanley Parable. Telltale's kind of interesting, though. Their stuff kind of breaches new territory, being sort of in between games and TV and movies. And I like the idea of having something shorter that kind of ties into, like, the Walking Dead comic, for example, or Game of Thrones. And it's a neat way to experience those stories and have some impact.
And I like the episodic feel of it, so that's one thing I do like as well, because it feels like more episode, like, you don't have to continue playing over and over again or stay long.
That's my fault.
No?
I'm so sorry.
That is alright.
Silenced.
Check mine, too.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
had silenced that. What's wrong? Stop buzzing.
It's alright. What I did with my phone for Halloween, I have the Halloween theme on there, so every time someone sends me a text, rings, or like status update, the Halloween theme goes off.
Perfect.
And I forget. So I was in a store, and all of a sudden, I had 10 messages going off. It was my birthday. I had 10 messages going off. And all of a sudden, the woman next to me looks at me and goes, I keep hearing the Halloween theme. Like, and I acted like, no, like, really? I don't know what that's about. Oh, man. Just get that looked at. So I did that, and that was kind of funny. But to digress, I guess tie back to the Geeky Confessions. So with video games, people would think every geek is a gamer, but that's not true either.
Mm-hmm.
You have different subsections that you could be into and not into. Like, I know I caught a lot of flack for the D&D. My friend's like, really? You got into D&D? It's like...
You're in good company here.
Yeah, I'm like... I
like
don't know.
D&D.
I've never played it, really, though.
Yeah, I think Sheila just got...
I mean, I didn't play it a lot, but only because I didn't have that, like, as many of my close friends were into it. The couple times that I've actually had the opportunity to play it, I really liked it. I mean, it's no everyone is John, but...
Few things are.
Few things are.
So is there anything else that you guys have been want to confess, or...
It
Shocking.
was Game of Thrones for me for a while, but then I finally got into that, like, last year. I just watched all of it. Now I'm wearing a Game of Thrones t-shirt, so...
Honestly, it was a little hard for me to think of something to say for this. I realized there is so much stuff that I actually do participate in. There's just things that I don't do as much of. Like, I like anime. I don't watch a ton of it or anything like that. But there are certain shows I really like.
There's certain, like with anime, it's also categories of things within anime. So anime is such a large genre itself, you know?
Yeah.
But that's something people would be like, wait, you don't watch anime? You don't watch the next Attack of the Titan or whatever they're watching? And I can't think of another anime besides, like, Pokemon. And I'm like, no, that's never been my cup of tea. It's never been something where I've sat down. Closest I got to anime was Transformers cartoon back in the 80s. That's not really anime. There's some aspects of it that broke off. So while the American series stopped in 87, I continued on in the Japanese. So I wouldn't generally understand the Japanese that they were speaking, but I'd get the pictures. So
right.
So I sort of understand the storyline, and they kind of ruined Transformers. Like, people think Michael Bay ruined Transformers. He has done nothing compared to what the Japanese have done after our Generation 1 Transformers series. Have you seen the Headmaster series? It's a mess.
Not even a little bit.
It's a complete mess. They got rid of all the normal Transformers, so you had no Rodimus Prime, no Ultra Magnus, no... You had these robots to take their heads off and become other robots. It got very strange and very, like... It lost me.
Hey, don't worry. There is more than meets the eye.
Unfortunately, I don't know if I want to see what more than meets the eye happens. So to tie this conversation to a close, You don't have to be into everything geeky to be considered a geek.
Especially because everyone's always into something that isn't in the realm of geekiness, and that takes up some of your time, so you don't have room for everything. I love musicals, and I spend so much time like bulking up on Stephen Sondheim and stuff that I don't necessarily have time for all of the anime and video games.
So is the Sondheim restraining order still out there for you?
Not yet, but I'm working on it. I'll get there.
But, so, this is the time of the year where everyone loves their own scary stuff. So we're going into our favorite scary stories, comics, television shows, movies, and such like that. So for me, I was recently, for the site, I was compiling a list which is going to go up this week of over 30 television specials with their synopsis, basically what they were about and the best ones. I found, like, for me, my favorite Halloween of all time happens to be the Community Epidemiology, which is basically their zombie episode, which is still a classic. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Hulu. Season 2, Episode 6. It's the funniest episode. I don't know about anyone else, but that just tied the series for me. That's when I became a real fan of the series.
That was a great episode. Jinx, give me soda.
Here you go.
That's a water.
They can't see.
I can.
So what are some of your favorite, like, television or scary?
I love the episode of Buffy where, well, I like all the Buffy Halloween specials. The one where Spike's recruiting the kids who turned into monsters is also great, but I do really like the one where the house is embodying all of everyone's, like, fears. Basically, I love that one because there's a part where Giles kicks down a door holding a chainsaw, and that's great. And Anthony Stewart Head is the sexiest librarian of all time.
Yes, he is.
No comment.
I think we know what that means.
I've always really loved the old Romero zombie movies. Like, Dawn of the Dead is just one of my generally favorite movies of all time. And it's ridiculous and just gruesome and gory and silly, and everything about it is wonderful. And it's not the scariest movie ever, but every time I watch it, I just get giddy.
Was that the one that was done at the mall?
Yeah.
All right, because I love that, you know, everyone's like make this, it's like a metaphor for consumerism, which is, I love that it's become that because it was shot in the mall. And I think Romero was talking about that at the time, but that's always going to be a classic.
He got a little more heavy-handed with his metaphors as he went on. One of his more recent zombie movies was all about how we're on the internet too much and how that's terrible.
Do you remember that movie that Kristen Bell was in? That was like the first movie she did outside of Veronica Mars called Pulse, which was basically about that, where basically the internet could kill you. It was the worst movie ever.
There's a Buffy episode for that, too.
But
there's a demon on the internet.
So basically, like, people would die based upon the electronics they had. And society was like... So it was funny. I don't know if you ever saw Forgetting Sarah Marshall. They actually made fun of that movie. Mm-hmm. He said, hey, how do you solve this? Just take the batteries out. You win. And I'm like, wait, God damn it. I actually had to review that for Newsday at the time, for when I used to do reviews for Newsday. And that was the one movie I actually walked out on before the end because it was so terrible. I'm just like...
There has never been a movie bad enough for me to walk out on.
I always thought that. I even told my editor, I apologize. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I couldn't see the end of this crap. This was just terrible. Terrible movie. I mean, he was okay with it. He was like, no, it's fine.
You were getting paid to watch it and you walked out.
That's the scary part. I didn't think of. I was like, wait.
The scary part.
You know, it's kind of funny in how, like, doing the TV specials, I noticed a lot of tie-ins between episodes. If you do a Halloween season, it's always early. Usually they do, like, the Halloween seasons, the second season of a show. And it's usually, like, the 6th or 7th episode in.
Well, October comes early because shows usually start in the fall, so
it does make sense that's like that way. I think one of the other ones of my favorite Halloween specials was the Knight Rider one back in the day, Halloween Night, which is homage to Psycho. So it was all about Psycho, had references to Psycho, had the music of Psycho, was filmed on Universal a lot, and you had Kit and Michael Knight, David Hasselhoff on the show. So it was like perfect Halloween. Like the only thing that ever topped that for me, overacting, was the Star Trek one. When they went to the haunted house.
Right.
In the original Star Trek. Captain Kirk in that episode is magnificent.
Of course. Shatnering all over the place.
Oh, he Shatnered all over that episode. That was...
I also, the episode of Supernatural where it's an homage to all the old Universal monster movies, and the whole episode's actually in black and white. And the monster, spoiler alert, turns out to be like a shapeshifter who's like obsessed with all of these old
I just
Universal
saw that
movies.
episode for the first time and I loved it.
Oh man, all of the Ben Edlund episodes of Supernatural are the best ones every time. That's where you get the suicidal teddy bears.
I love that one because it was like the Dracula like shapeshifts to different things, and you see Dean.
Yeah, he's like
you see Dean like locked up in like German clothing.
Yeah, it's because it was Oktoberfest.
For no reason. You're like,
it
wait,
was
why is he in German clothes? I never understood that. It was like, I guess they wanted to put everything in there, and like it was so weird that the girl who was like didn't know that this guy who was shapeshifting into a girl as her friend at the time. And I love those outdoor episodes like that.
Yeah.
Guys, I have a scary fact for you.
All right.
I've never seen Supernatural.
Ooh. You're too late. We're already past that part of the episode. Movie-wise, I really love Cabin in the Woods.
So what do you love about that movie? Because that movie was either people absolutely love it or they absolutely hated it. There was no in between, it seemed.
I absolutely love it because I thought the funny parts were genuinely funny, and they really did a good job of playing off the horror dynamics without, like, ridiculing the old horror films. It was really done with like respect for what came before it instead of just flat out parody. Just the part where they released all the monsters and there were so many, and that was very cool. And I'm terrified of unicorns ever since. And it was just a great movie. And
well,
Joss
to be honest,
Whedon.
unicorns are very terrifying. I mean, come on. They have the freaking horn on their head.
Yeah, it's a horse that can stab you. That's what it
like,
is.
Come on, they are terrifying. And, don't get me started on My Little Pony. That scares the crap out of me. Well, no, the fans of My Little Pony scare the crap out of me. But please don't send us hate mail. Because I know how you guys...
I'm with you, bronies.
I know how...
Gender dynamics are for the birds.
No
and
comment.
Then that's the thing that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me about the gender dynamics. That doesn't bother me.
Well, I like
It's
that
the
part of
whole-
it enough that I don't care what else is happening there.
It's just creepy to be that obsessed with horses. I'm sorry.
That's a whole different thing.
Ponies, they're different. Duh.
I still
I
don't get
also,
it.
with Cabin in the Woods, I really like the symbolism aspect of it that's underneath all of that. There's one line that Marty, the stoner character, has right at the beginning of the film where he says, someone like sarcastically says, society's crumbling, huh? And he says, no, society's filling in the cracks. Society needs to crumble a little and we're all too chicken shit to let it. And I really agree with that. I think you see so many elementary schools with fences going up and things like that. And I feel like society is getting way too filling in all of the cracks safe. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
I think also with these days we coddle everyone so much.
Really.
Outrage. Like this week alone, I don't know if you guys heard about the whole Star Wars thing where the one guy, I don't know if it's real or not, but apparently some guy in North Carolina killed himself over the fact there's a black character in Star Wars. A black main character in Star Wars.
One less racist to deal with, I guess.
I'm like, and then I saw the whole hashtag about Star Wars being anti-white and to boycott it. Are you people retarded? It's fictional characters we're dealing with. If that causes you that much outrage, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should be in your
don't use
home.
retarded as an insult. That's gay.
Yes. So I apologize for that, and I don't mean to say that, but what I'm trying to say is, yeah, for retarded people everywhere, I apologize for using that because that's not really fair.
But yeah,
But it's like they get so outraged over the stupidest things.
they're calling it a cultural appropriation now. Like, you get so mad if we put white people in a black thing, and now it's just,
I think people forget we're dealing with fictional characters here.
seriously.
There is no Star Wars Africa. They're all
What?
just people.
First off, it's a galaxy far, far away.
True.
It's not our galaxy.
It's also the past. Duh.
I'm like, really? What was Lando Calrissian? I know,
Exactly.
Did you forget that he was in the movie? He may not have been a main character.
It's just like these people who got so upset over the new Mad Max movie because there were like strong women in it. And it's like, she told Mad Max what to do. No one tells Mad Max what to do, except a bunch of people in the other movies, including Tina Turner, who last time I checked is also a woman.
And was badass in that movie.
Yeah, none of these prejudiced people like fact check.
No, well, what facts? What are facts? Come on.
They can't even do their like racism and sexism right with all of the facts. So
yeah, at least if you're going to be racist and sexist, back it up with some facts here.
Try.
At least
it's not even a challenge.
It's like don't be racist and sexist without actually having some factual data to back you up. It's just wrong. It's tacky.
It's almost like there isn't any, because there isn't anything wrong with having women and black people actually do cool things in movies.
Honestly, I don't know if it's even a good thing to acknowledge these people. I feel like we're allowing their hashtags to spread by talking about them right now.
And that is a good point, because, ignore it and maybe it'll go away.
That's the scariest thing of all.
Yeah, it could be us adding to the fire, too. But let's get back to scary stuff. Well, that was not scary. That wasn't not scary, but it was not.
Who's there? A ghost.
So my favorite scary movie of all time is The Shining.
Nice choice.
It's still to this day. Well, of course, when I saw it, I was like 10. So that may not have been the best movie to show a 10-year-old, but I thank my cousins for that. It's just, luckily, a lot of it went over my head. Like, so when I saw it later on, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. Just like that one line about women. It's like, can't live with or get with others. You're preaching to the choir, Lloyd. You're preaching to the choir. It was like, wow. That was like one of the scariest. And it was kind of funny. My parents came to this country in 1978 for the first time. And my mom was telling me a story that their friends decided to go see The Exorcist. Of all movies to go see the first time in the country.
Oh my.
Was The Exorcist.
Welcome to America.
Exactly. Welcome to America. What movie are we going to go see? Let's go see The Exorcist. It looks like a feel-good movie. Like, I don't even know how the thought process went. Let's go see this movie. It's called The Exorcist.
It's a nice religious film.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I never really liked The Exorcist that much. It seems like a little boring to me. I tried to watch it and it was so much this priest trying to do a priest thing and not enough of the head turning around.
See, there's so many versions of that movie too. So you got to see which version you saw. Because there's ones where they added stuff with that movie with her and extra scenes.
Maybe that's the problem.
Stuff. There's so many, like, I don't even know what the real version is anymore because there's been so many it's like the original, like Star Wars. I don't even know what the original Star Wars is anymore.
Whatever one doesn't have that extra scene with Han and Jabba the Hutt is the real one, because I hate that scene.
And it's like, I love that they're doing that stuff and they're re-releasing stuff and they change things, but like, and even Lucas made sense, sort of, when he changed Anakin Skywalker at the end to be Anakin when he died, not older, because he never really did grow up. So that, I will give Lucas props for that, because that actually does make sense to me. I won't give him props for anything else.
Yeah, I guess.
It is okay to hate George Lucas right now. He's not involved with Star Wars anymore. We'll be fine.
Hopefully, I think. But to get back, another thing that tied in for me was, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, my favorite spoof of a scary movie. It was scary, but it was also like a spoofy scary. An American Werewolf in London, the original. That, not the remake, but the original, was creeped out, but it was funny. It was a John Landis film.
Right.
And you could see the humor. That was the first time I saw humor and scary movie, like horror movies combined, so to speak.
Yeah, I really like, in that respect, Evil Dead 2 is probably up there with some of my favorite horror films.
God, that movie still... I love that movie, but it's scary as hell.
Yes.
The first... I think the third one, they kind of realized, like, we should maybe tone it down.
Army of Darkness is good, but it's not so much a horror movie as it is like more of an action movie.
That's why I look at Army of Darkness.
Skeletons don't have any blood, and it's disappointing.
Did anyone see the remake of Evil Dead?
I did.
Evil Dead? What'd you think of that?
There was so much blood in it that I don't remember anything else about it. It was cool. It was really, 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 really violent.
That is what I want.
Compared to the original, though, did you feel like they added to the mystique of it? Did they take away from it? With all the blood, did it take away from evil?
It was in the spirit of the original, I think, and there were definitely elements they borrowed from it. It's a little hard for me to really say, like, with perspective, if I would say that it comes to the same level as the original. I think that what it loses in charm, it makes up for in kind of a professional film quality tone.
I just don't think anything in film is ever going to beat Bruce Campbell cutting off his hand, putting a bucket over it, and then stacking a bunch of books on the bucket, and the top one is a farewell to arms. Because that was just perfect.
That was.
Also him, like, flipping himself over with the possessed hand. That was boss. That was straight up boss. I have to resort to the word boss because that's just exactly what it was.
I don't know if you could do that now. I'm interested
Probably
to see.
Not, but I think Ash vs. Evil Dead will still be good.
I think it will be good. And for me, one of the few, like, really recent horror films, relative, that really, like, I thought was really good was It Follows and Let the Right Ones In. Let the Right Ones In was just that. It started the whole vampire craze again. Mm-hmm. And come on, anything's better than Twilight for vampires. I mean,
I'd rather go back to Lost Boys.
I think Twilight kind of ruined the genre for a little bit. But I think, like, Let the Right Ones In and It Follows. And I think the good thing about Twilight is forcing writers and people to take different takes and newer takes on vampires and Dracula and the story, because you can't do Twilight. Twilight kind of ruined some of the vampire lore. I hate to say it. I mean...
Are we almost past vampires yet? It seems like it's been a really long time since another monster got the spotlight.
People thought it was going to be zombies that take over, like, the next spotlight, but I don't think... The Walking Dead's great, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I don't think zombies have taken over as they thought it would.
They're slow.
They're not as sexy.
But, like, I would think, like... I know they tried to do the werewolf thing, and they had that awful Benicio del Toro, like, remake movie that I actually had to go sit through with a friend. And I was just like... And I hate scary movies, and I sat through that, and I'm like, this is it? Mm-hmm. I jumped maybe once or twice in that movie. And I'm like, okay, I hate scary movies, but I can do this. I can do this. I mean, I don't know what the next horror thing is. I mean... I'm sure Guillermo del Toro will be the one to bring it to, if you can get the project off the ground and stop it now.
Let's bring back murdering people in Victorian England, because I think that was a great genre, and we haven't seen enough Jekyll and Hyde, Jack the Ripper, Sweeney Todd lately, because those guys are great.
Jack the Ripper to me is one of my favorite characters, even though I know it's based on true, and I think by now...
It happened long enough ago. It's not too soon anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's But one of my favorite stories from Batman days that would never made into the comics, but someone wrote it, was a one-shot called Subway Jack, where this guy finds a knife of Jack the Ripper and goes through Gotham, like, ripping people to shreds because he found gets possessed by Jack the Ripper's knife, and Batman has to stop him. And, of course, it's in 89, and I'm, like, 10 years old reading this thing going... Not understanding what I'm reading. I'm like, what does gutted mean? Why is this person... My mom was like, never mind. We're not going to go there. But they never went back. I would love someone to do like a one-shot of that. Just because cool. I think it would be great just to bring that, like, one-shot of that story to life. Because Jack, it was so brutal and so, like, something that's missing from comics. And it uses Jack the Ripper lore. I love the Jack the Ripper story. I don't know why. It's one of those stories that... Don't call me a sociopath.
I would never, to your face.
Yes, I'm used to that by now. But Jack the Ripper is one of my favorite stories. I think the lore is there, and it's just like... The fact, I think, that aids is the fact that he's never truly been caught.
Although Hannibal definitely won that epic rap battle of history.
Yeah.
That was...
Damn it.
That was one of the best ones of those, also. Hannibal Lecter versus Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
That was good. The part where Hannibal, like, corrects Jack, like, no, you were doing fine until you started. That was so in character.
Another horror movie that I've always really loved, actually, is Alien. It's so cool to, like, have a proper sci-fi horror fusion that works and is scary.
Yeah, that's one of the movies that I still like. When I think of horror and I think of that, I think of The Thing. Like anything with aliens, it's The Thing, it's Alien, or just animals in general, and Jaws. Jaws scares it. I don't know. I mean, it caused a panic. I think.
Go on.
I think Spielberg and the team, like, people don't realize, like, people were afraid of the beaches after that.
Yeah.
Even around here, no one wanted to go to the beach and do things because of the Jaws. Even though they've never seen a shark in the water, now we get more of them. We get maybe 1 or 2 a year of shark attacks.
More
on Long
people
Island.
were killed by selfies last year than sharks. Let's make a horror movie about selfies.
I think we
there is
should.
one.
I think that would be.
There's one about Facebook, but I don't think that's necessarily selfies killing people.
I think if we did one like Guillermo del Toro, like type selfies, like the haunted, take a picture, you take your soul or something like that. See, Hollywood would
came in a selfie stick.
See, and that would sell. Scarily enough, selfies. The next horror movie.
Snapchat, more like murder chat.
Oh God!
I didn't have a good pun for once in my life.
Slaughter chat.
That works.
But the one movie that also freaked me out, actually, I saw like a while ago. It actually almost made me afraid of women. Was the movie Teeth? I don't know.
I heard things.
The shit out of me. I don't care who you are, but if you ever see that movie, just go into it going. You're probably not going to want to sleep next to the person you're next to for a while. Because that movie, the premise of the movie is the woman's vagina has teeth. And
that is all I know about that movie.
That's basically you see, like, the gynecologist going in, coming out, his hands are basically ripped off, gone. That is frightening. Because that could happen. Maybe. I don't know. Biology.
I don't know. Birdemic.
Science.
That could happen.
Birdemic. Movie.
That's more about being scared of global warming, I think, than even being scared of birds.
Wait, was that the one with Gwyneth Paltrow?
No.
There was one where there's something like that, and then Gwyneth Paltrow dies in it. So everyone loved the movie because Gwyneth Paltrow dies in it.
Birdemic is an unofficial sequel to The Birds that was made on a shoestring budget with no editing skill.
Sci-fi.
How can you even tell? The birds look so real.
They're all clip art.
That would be funny, though.
It is funny.
All of a sudden, you see the bird on clip art. Like, wait a minute.
Stationary clip art bird floating in the top left
Flap,
corner
flap.
of the screen.
Flap, flap.
Act scared.
So,
I was always scared of that paperclip with eyeballs. He knows something you don't.
and another one of my favorite television shows, just to go back to it, Dead Like Me. The final official episode of Dead Like Me was the Haunted special. Mandy Patinkin strikes again, and because he left, because he didn't want to do something else, the show ended. I blame him for everything. That's why I'll never watch a show with him in it, because he did that to Criminal Minds when he left. Because I guess he wants to do different things. He doesn't like to sign a long-term contract.
I just like him in musicals, so that works.
So, he was in Dead Like Me, and it only went 2 seasons because he wanted to leave. But that episode is great, and basically the show, which was about people, reapers on purgatory. If you haven't checked out Dead Like Me, I suggest you do. And Halloween's the perfect time to check it out because it's a great show. Even since that was the last official episode, I think it was a great send-off. It wrapped up the series nicely, but at the same time, the main character kills a serial killer at the end. Mm-hmm. She reaps his soul, and it's like, wow, that's great. So, they could have done this whole thing with the reaping thing, and they made it some people just, you don't want it. Even though you have to reap them, you don't have to, like what you do. Or not everyone who you reap is going to be a good person. That's the other thing that it showed.
True.
Because everyone in that show was a good person when they reaped him. Except for this one guy who was a serial killer. And it was very well done. I think it might have been Brian Fuller.
Yeah.
Yes.
It might have been Brian Fuller.
It was Brian Fuller like started on it, and then he left pretty early on, I think. He didn't have as much like creative pull as he did with his other shows.
Still a good show.
I have a Halloween episode for you guys.
All right.
The episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender where they introduced bloodbending for the first time.
Oh, yeah. You have a point.
It's just
You
a
definitely
really,
have a point.
really like strangely dark episode for a kids show. And there's that like just terrifying bit where they're actually doing the bloodbending, and it's like the people are being controlled like puppets.
Spooky.
Wow.
I heard of this terrifying movie called 50 Shades of Grey, and it depicts a world where a Twilight fan fiction is popular enough to get its own movie, and it's terrifying to think that a society could actually get to that point.
What's even terrifying is the fact that I actually went to the theaters to see it just as a joke with a couple of friends. And me and this guy behind me were making jokes, and we made our own Mystery Science 3000 theater with 50 Shades of Grey because the movie is so terrible. How do you make a movie about sex and not have sex in it?
Somehow.
They did it. That's a feat unto itself.
That's
How
what
do
I
you
hear.
do that? How do you make a movie that, like... They could have made a PG-13, tell you the truth. They really didn't need the R rating for that.
Mm-hmm.
It just was, like, ridiculous. And we were just making so many jokes. Like, I can't tell on this podcast, but
Yeah.
it's just, we were making several terrible puns, terrible jokes.
All I've seen about it are interviews with the two stars, which are great to watch because you can just tell that neither of them like the fact that they're in this movie.
Oh, the fact that they like each other. That's the thing.
That too. But like they were asked like, who was the first person you told when you heard that you got the part? And both of them were just like, I didn't really call anyone.
Yeah, it's like, here's your big break, Hollywood. Well, the funny thing is, the original person who was supposed to do that show was on the head of Sons of Anarchy, Charlie, I forgot mispronounced his name, Hunan, who...
I don't know.
And then he dropped out.
All right, now we're talking about 50 Shades of Grey. Let's change the subject.
All right, so I think also, the one cool thing about this time of year is I always go back and recap like the best horror comics out there. Mm-hmm. I think we're in a great time now where there's a lot more horror comics coming out than you realize. Like, one of my favorite series is Afterlife with Archie, which is basically Archie, the Riverdale gang, set with zombies, so to speak. It's actually a pretty cool series. I didn't honestly think this, as old as I am now, that I'd ever be talking about Archie comics ever again.
Right.
The last time I read Archie comics before the series was when I was 13 years old. And that was because I was growing up and down in Canada so much I had to read something, and I picked up Archie. Mm-hmm. But it actually revolutionized and made it cool. It was pretty cool. Jughead's a zombie, which is freaking kind of awesome. Like, you see the Riverdale trying to survive. And it's an alternate universe, and the artwork is done by Fran Fricalva, who's one of my favorite artists of all comics. So it's, like, really well done. Really good. I think they're cognizant of the fact that it's Archie with zombies. So
Right.
it's kind of, they make it really good. Another favorite of mine is Witches by Scott Snyder, which basically witches exist. He took the witches' lore, but made it so that they're always around us. You don't see them. They're like, witches are real. Mm-hmm. And people get pledged. So in order the witches to take you have to be pledged by somebody else. So it's like so many aspects of that and the mythology behind it, coupled with the artwork and the way they do it. It's really well done. It's a teenage girl who's the main character. And not many people could write a teenage girl and make
A
it...
teenage witch, you say?
And the funny thing is, she's not a witch. She's what someone pledged her. Mm-hmm. So it's all about bullying and being pledged and how to stand up for yourself.
Cool.
But it's pretty cool in the fact that she fights back. You see her dad and her relationship and how they fight back against these witches. And I already said, there's so many people I would pledge. I don't know what I'd do with these witches. I'd be like, I pledge you. I'm sorry. It's like, and I can't wait for it to come back. Are there any horror comics that you guys like?
Well, Beyond Belief is a comic now, so that's cool.
I love the way they're doing that.
Yeah,
It's
they're actually
so-
giving it a narrative, which is strange to have a following through story arc for Beyond Belief, because they never did that with the podcast. But
Yeah,
I think it's going well.
I think it's going well. I think the way they're writing is really well done. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's not my favorite company, Image Comics. I mean, as I get older, I realize I'm moving away from like DC and Marvel and going to different companies and liking their stuff more. Like, if I don't at the end of the month, if if I have a top 10 of the month, at least 6 of them will be Image comic titles.
Image has been doing really good lately.
I think they know how to do things, and from where they started to where they are, I think they have a chance to take over DC and Marvel eventually.
I can see it.
It's just the way they do things. Because they put out quality. I think they also give the creators the right to do things. That's why we're getting so many scary stories from Image, I think. They're letting creators be creators and not telling them, no, you can't write that horror, whatever, because it's on you. You're creator owned. So it's like you come up with your storylines and you come up with what you think what public wants, and they let you roll with it. They don't get in your way and say, don't do the stories. You couldn't do that.
Mm.
One of my favorite stories from Marvel era was the Swamp Thing, Man Thing type stories. That basically, yes, Man Thing and Swamp Thing are similar, very similar, but they're both rip-offs of something else. So don't even go there and start saying the war between which started first. But I love Swamp Thing, and it's sad that DC stopped making it. They ended the run, and it's like Swamp Thing was one of my favorite comics too. Back in the day when Alan Moore, crazy batshit Alan Moore, was writing it. I mean that with the highest regard. Batshit crazy is with the utmost
Perfect
respect.
description of everything he does, and it's brilliant.
I mean, I just, and the fact that he gets to, if you ever heard him talk about his time with Marvel and DC and how he hates them and hates all of them, it's just the funniest thing to hear. And not funny in that fact that it's just like, it's Alan Moore. What would you do to piss off Alan Moore? I mean,
make any movie about his stuff.
Yeah, but have you seen those movies? They're quite scary to begin with. Not scary in that they're scary that they're bad.
Yeah.
Except Watchmen. Watchmen's the only one that I've been like, okay.
I enjoy Watchmen. I think it depends on how connected you are to the comic.
Yeah, and I think the worst thing DC ever did was before Watchmen.
Still have managed to avoid that one.
Because I don't need to know the story of the people before they were the Watchmen. I didn't like the series. A lot of people are fans of it, but for me, it's just like, it's a waste. What I would love is the team before Watchmen, the
Minutemen?
The Minutemen. I would love a story with the Minutemen, and just, they never did that. But I think also right now, going back to this, I think it's a great time because a lot of creators are getting to do their own scary stuff. And it's great to see how creative they are with the scary stuff now. So is there anything else that you guys want to talk about scary-wise?
Well,
I think we've...
Mostly for me, I've really only been consistently reading Walking Dead. I've also actually been checking out the new Invader Zim comic, which is kind of horror. They brought back all the people from the TV show for it. And it's really actually a fun run. It's with Oni Comics, who did Scott Pilgrim and not much else that I know of.
They have Oni has something called Letter 44, which is written by the great Charles Soule. And that's also like aliens are real. They're going to attack Earth. They're going to go through. So that's a story to pick up. It's not really horror, but it is horror. Because think about it. Aliens are always horror.
Aliens are scary.
Aliens are very scary.
Space, scary.
So I think we covered a lot with the horror and scary. I think these are our picks, for
Mark
scary stuff. Movies,
I still have
TVs.
nightmares.
Nightmares are scary. But, so check out some of the things we recommended, and, we'll have links to the articles that we're going to be writing this week about Halloween. We have several Halloween-related, or I wrote several Halloween-related articles should be up sometime this week. We are revamping the website, so when that's done, they'll be up. And we're back. Welcome. We're going to play a game. Would you like to play a game?
Maybe. Given the scary nature of the episode and the way you asked that question, I'm not sure if I should say yes.
I'm going to say no.
But
okay, that's the end of our show.
Woo!
No. So we're going to play a game called Guess the Creep. Basically, we have 5 people with their creepiest quotes ever, and you have to guess who it is.
All right.
Now, the choices are Phil Spector,
A self-inflicted wound.
Gary Busey,
Real swiggle.
Nicolas Cage,
Pleasure for enjoying his whiskey.
Hannibal Lecter, or Jack Torrance.
Here's Johnny.
All right.
So let's start with the first person. Love is an obsessive delusion that is cured by marriage. Who said it?
Nick Cage.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Phil Spector.
Phil Spector is right.
All right.
So our next one, we're going to go with my dark side, my shadow, my lower companion, is now in the back room blowing up balloons for children's parties. Who said it?
Gary Busey.
You didn't mention that Darth Vader was an option, so I'm gonna go with Nick Cage.
Gary Busey. Yeah. First principles, simplicity. Read Marcus Aurelius. Of each particular thing ask, what is it in itself? What is its nature? What does he do, this man you seek?
Hannibal.
Hannibal.
I tried to make that one hard, but they're hard to make when they have the...
That's that one that we're both going to get all of them right.
I've seen that movie about 30 times.
Okay, so let's go here. I am not a demon. I am a lizard, a shark, a heat-seeking panther. I want to be Bob Denver on acid, playing the accordion.
Phil Spector?
Nick Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
What was that one from?
I don't know. I found it as a quote, but some of these we don't know the source material. We just found the quote, and I'm like, it's creepy enough that I think it's good.
That we'll just trust the internet for once on this.
All right. You've had your whole blank life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more going to give you now?
What were the options again?
Jack Torrance, Hannibal Lecter, Phil Spector, Nicolas Cage, or Gary Busey?
I'll go with Torrance.
I'm also gonna go with Jack Torrance.
That is Jack Torrance. People tell me they idolize me, want to be like me, but I tell them, trust me, you don't want my life. I've been a very tortured soul.
Nick Cage.
Phil Spector.
Phil Spector. You know what failing stands for? It stands for finding an important lesson, inviting needed growth.
Busey?
Cage.
That is a Busey, and that is batshit crazy. Every great story seems to begin with a snake. Remember your choices. Phil Spector, Nicolas Cage, Gary Busey, Hannibal Lecter, or Jack Torrance.
Gonna guess Jack Torrance?
I'm gonna go with Phil Spector.
It's Nicolas Cage. All my characters have a glint of madness.
Also Nick Cage?
Also Nick Cage.
Yes.
I think it's a little more than a glint. But are they good or bad?
No one will ever know.
It's a very strange silence that I'm living in right now. It's a silence that has a lot of activity and noise in it, from a zone that I don't live in on this earth.
Phil Spector?
I'm also gonna say Phil Spector.
Gary Busey.
Ugh.
Stop copying me.
Nah, he's got those walls of sound.
I can see, I was thinking when I read that, I'm like, that's Nicolas Cage, right? You were the caretaker here. I recognize you. I saw your pictures in the newspaper. You chopped your wife and daughters up into bits and then blew your brains out?
That's Jack Torrance.
Sure.
Jack Torrance it is. So I'm going to give, this is a couple lines, so, because I have to act this out, but
All right.
Exciting.
Act away.
what was the Donner Party? They were a party of settlers in covered wagon times. They got snowbound one winter in the mountains. They had to resort to cannibalism in order to stay alive. Don't worry. I know all about cannibalism. I saw it on TV. See? It's okay. He saw it on the television.
Nick Cage?
That is also Jack Torrance and his family.
Yes.
All right.
Uh,
I know, like, I don't know if I've heard Jack Torrance before until it got brought up today.
You have.
Have I? Mm-hmm. Well, where? That's not an answer. That's a silly smile that the people can't see.
Visual bits on the radio. All right.
Jack Torrance is Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I should have said that. Oops.
He has a name. It's said like once.
Yeah. Okay, I feel
Thought it was
obligated-
Johnny.
All right, so I feel obligated to change blank into blank. The same way that Galileo proved the earth was round to the world and that the sun did not stand still.
Nick Cage?
Hannibal.
Phil Spector. The blank was music to art. So I thought that would have been a dead giveaway if I said music. Because he's the only music person.
And here I thought it was dirty words.
Could have been blank to blank. Could have been dirty words. Glen, add blank. Like you did the other podcast, which was funny. You know what DOUBT stands for? It stands for Debate on Understanding Bewildersome Thoughts.
Oh, who was the one with the failure one last time? It's got to be the same. Was that Gary Busey?
While Gary Busey seems like the obvious answer, I'm going to go and be creative and say Nick Cage.
It was Gary Busey.
Ah.
Oh, that was the throwaway one.
Acronyms.
Acker and
Snakes,
Blackernyms.
snakes are sometimes perceived as evil, but they are also perceived as medicine. If you look at an ambulance, there are the two snakes on the side of the ambulance, the caduceus or the staff of Hermes. There's the two snakes going up it, which means that the venom can also be healing. Who said this?
What?
Exactly what I felt.
Nick Cage.
Yeah, Nick Cage.
That is a Nick Cage.
Because that was the other Snakes quote, too, right?
Why is she obsessed with snakes?
Oh.
I'm a little scared.
At least they're not bees.
I was always shocked when I went to the doctor's office and they did my x-ray and didn't find that I had 8 more ribs than I should have or that my blood was green.
Gary Busey.
Well, Spector.
Nicolas Cage! Again, there's a reason why we consider him creepy.
Not even sure if those are quotes or just dialogue.
Don't know if that's from a movie or just something he said unprompted in an interview.
I think that more prompted an interview, to tell the truth. I will listen now. After your father's murder, you were orphaned. You were 10 years old.
Hannibal.
You went to live with cousins on a sheep and horse ranch in Montana, and...
It's Hannibal.
It's Hannibal.
The horse dies, but of natural causes. The sheep less so.
Alrighty then, let's go to the next one. Do you have the slightest idea what a moral and ethical principle is? Do you?
No.
Jack Torrance.
I maintain I do not know.
Alright, that was Jack Torrance. Don't know in both aspects? What aspect? The other aspect? Or literal sense?
Principle with L-E or with A-L? Like a...
Principle with L-E.
Less clear on that one.
I'm going to move away from you a little bit.
One of these podcasters will be dead by dawn.
Could be. It's not going to be me, though.
So is that dawn of when we're recording it or when it goes live?
That's dawn as in dawn, dawn, dawn.
Okay. Imagine the peace symbol. The peace symbol has 3 pieces in it. One piece is emotion, that's your body. Another piece has spirit in it, that's your fuel. Another piece has intellect in it, and that's your steering wheel. You can never overdo the fuel that goes into your body, which is the emotions and the steering wheel to drive it. What the did I just read?
I'm going with Gary Busey.
I did not know that you spelt the peace and peace symbol with an I. I'm going with Nick Cage.
It's Gary Busey.
See, Gary Busey, all of his quotes seem to be obsessed with taking a thing and breaking it down into parts, whether it's words into letters or now it's the peace symbol with its lines. I'm noticing a pattern here.
I'm interested in all things that Donald Trump does. I've known him since 1980. He's a good man.
Nick Cage?
Nick Cage.
Gary Busey.
Oh,
He was on, I was
That
afraid of
makes
that one. He
sense.
was on that stupid show.
Celebrity Apprentice?
Yes. I said stupid show and it came out. So there it goes. But yes. I think what makes people fascinating is conflict. It's drama. It's the human condition. Nobody wants to watch perfection.
Nick Cage.
Phil Spector.
Nicolas Cage.
See, because that's a perfect, excuse for his acting career. Nobody wants to watch perfection.
He is perfect.
He's great. He's a treasure.
He's a national
He's
treasure.
Francis Ford Coppola's nephew.
I'm dealing in rock and roll. I'm not a bona fide human being.
Phil Spector?
Nick Cage.
Phil Spector. And anyone keeping score, that's the last of the Phil Spector quotes. I don't want to go that batshit crazy because he is batshit crazy.
All right.
But
Stop guessing that.
never dip lower than you can dip.
Gary Busey.
Nick Cage.
Gary Busey.
His quotes all have the same feel to them. I've never
They do. I
heard
didn't
much
realize
out of
that
Gary
till-
Busey before, but
Sometimes people think I'm wearing a wig, but I'm not wearing a wig. And then sometimes they think I'm not wearing a wig when I'm wearing a wig.
Nick
Donald
Cage.
Trump.
No, that was last week and you weren't here.
That could be a Phil Spector, but that is Nicolas Cage. Boom, boom, Trying to think of a way to get this one going. You know what you look like to me with your good bag and cheap shoes? You look like a rube, a well-scrubbed, hustling rube with a little taste, good nutrition, giving you some length of bone. But you're not more than one generation from poor white trash, are you?
Hannibal.
Steve is right.
Yeah.
Dr. Steve Lecter. That is such an inside joke.
Don't worry about it.
I don't think that's true. I think that you have some definite ideas about what should be done with blank, and I'd like to know what they are.
The blank is Danny. It's Jack Torrance.
That's confident. I'm going to just hitch my start of that wagon.
Yes, it's Jack Torrance.
Danny.
Women, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. Words of wisdom, Lloyd. My man, words of wisdom.
That's also Torrance.
Yes.
Seen The Shine. Just didn't remember his name.
And we're going to the last few, so let's go here. Have a mind that's open to everything. Get attached to nothing.
Busey?
That is a Busey.
Okay.
Gary Busey. Fear is the dark room where the devil develops his negatives.
Oh, more Vader quotes.
We're going with Busey again.
Nick Cage.
I think we should do a Gary Busey or Darth Vader, but because that was Busey. But I read some of his quotes and I'm just like, are you trying to be like a philosopher? I don't know what he's trying to be. It's kind of scary.
Off-brand Manson.
He could be off-brand Manson. I can see that. We begin by coveting what we see every day. Don't you feel your eyes moving over your body? And don't your eyes seek out things you want?
Hannibal.
Yes, I didn't think this through, people. I didn't realize. I'm a little scared that they were that obsessed with Hannibal. I might have to stop this short because I don't want to get eaten.
It's a good movie series, book series, TV show.
Don't worry, we don't have any Chianti around.
Or fava beans.
Or do we?
So, I'm awful glad you asked me that, Lloyd, because I just happen to have 20s and 2 10s right here in my wallet, and I was afraid that they were going to be there until next April. You slipped me a bottle of that bourbon, a cool glass, and some ice. You can do that, can't you, Lloyd? You're not too busy, are you?
Torrance.
Yes.
There's Johnny.
And God, I'd give anything for a drink. I'd give it my goddamn soul for just a glass of beer.
Nick Cage.
Yeah, Nick Cage.
Jack Torrance.
Torrance again.
This one.
And with that, we are done with Guess the Quote. And remember, it rubs the lotion on the skin. It does it whenever it's told. It rubs the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again. Yes, it will, Precious. Won't it? It will get the hose.
Jame. Bark.
Now it puts the lotion in the basket. It puts the lotion in the basket. Put the lotion in the basket. Would you me? I'd me. I'd me hard. I'd me so hard. And with that, it's the end of Guess the Creep. And this is the end of episode 3 of the Geek Gods podcast, the Spooktacular.
Boo.
I want to thank Jarek Jeremiah for the use of his theme, a bit of 8-bit. And wrapping up.
Once again, I am Sheila O'Neill. You can find me on SheilaO'Neill.com. And if you want to listen to my podcast, which is all about Stephen Sondheim, you can go to ListenIMadeAHat.com.
I'm Richard Lynch. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. That's pretty much it. Have a good one.
And I'm Ashish Thomas, your host. Remember to check out thegeekgods.com for everything geeky. Signing off.